smiles, simile, similes, simile. How you doing, guys? We're looking at similes today. My name's Gabs and I'm taking you through 12 tutorials. This is number 3 in a set of 12 tutorials on literary devices. And we're going to look at the definition of a simile. We'll also look at some examples, and then I'm going to break down a simile quote for you, exam style. So let's have a look at the definition. A simile compares different things using like or as. Let's look at some examples then, shall we? Now, these are examples just using the word like. So number 1, before we do that, okay. As we read each quote, just take a moment to really get in touch with your feelings to see what comes up. Let's read. Their eyes sparkled like stars. Number 2, the night was like a blanket. Number 3, they ate like hungry lions. Whenever I'm analysing literary devices, I like to think of 3 emotive adjectives that really sort of sum up the sentence. So for number 1, I've written dreamy, hopeful, romantic. For number 2, I've written comforting, dark, safe, because when you think of a blanket, you associate it with all of those comforting emotions. And number 3, they ate like hungry lions. This is threatening, ravenous, and fierce. Now let's look at some similes using the word as. Number 1, their hair was as gold as honey. Number 2, they were as cunning as cats. Number 3, their clothes were as colourful as rainbows. So have a think of the emotive, descriptive words that come up for you. For number 1, I got admiration, sweetness, and love. For number 2, they were as cunning as cats. I got mischief. It felt sharp and nimble, very much like a cat. And number 3, their clothes were as colourful as rainbows. I felt this was playful. There was a celebratory aspect and a sense of optimism. So these descriptive words will inform your analysis. Now let's look at some of my favourite similes from some amazing writers. Number 1, she would launch herself down the street like a ship in full sail. Now, this is a black feminist writer called Audre Lorde. She's describing her mother in Zami, a new spelling of my name. Number 2, my poor head would drop like a burst watermelon. This is by Maya Angelou from I Know Why a Caged Bird Sings. And number 3, its bag limp as a stopped lung. Now, this is written by Howard Nemerov and taken from his poem, The Vacuum. Now, I'm going to take one of these quotes and we're going to unpack it further exam style. So, I've picked Maya Angelou's, my poor head would drop like a burst watermelon. Now, I've said, Angelou uses a simile, like a burst watermelon, to convey her suffering and shame. Here, Angelou makes the image of a burst watermelon gruesome and shocking. It implies death, as though she was so humiliated she felt as though she could die. Now, if you've read the book, this quote comes from the part of the text where she's a child and something really embarrassing happens to her. Clearly, this sort of shame and embarrassment comes through the text. I'm going to analyse the way I've analysed this so you can get a clearer picture of how to do it. So straight away, I've named the literary device, simile. It's in the first line. I've called out the quote as well. And immediately, I've drawn upon those descriptive words to help inform my emotional intuition, to show the examiner that I know what I'm talking about. I hone in even deeper on the specific image of the watermelon bursting, and again, I give it some more descriptive words, gruesome and shocking. And then I kind of tie everything together in a bow to finish it off. You know, it implies death, as though she was so humiliated she felt as though she could die. So that was Angelou's poetic way of saying that, of conveying those emotions. Some final thoughts. Remember, this is only lesson 3 in 12 tutorials about literary devices, so make sure you subscribe so you get the notification for the next upload. If you want to get your hands on this deck, head to Patreon and tell me what you learned in the comments below. I love it when you guys give me feedback. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.